What do you mean, a journalist in spirit? What is a journalist in spirit? Anyone that says their opinion online is like a journalist in spirit. A Chud Logic is a journalist in spirit. That's not what they said. That's not what they said. Where is that? What? Dude, this guy's like weaseling. What an absurd thing to say. Right.
Let me bring it up to underscore the gravity of the situation.
How is he doing this? How is he just bold-faced lie on a live stream? It's so crazy. I don't understand. Gamers Nexus is pretty explicitly trying to damage Linus Tech Tips business. Okay, we've got this Linus Tech Tips live stream. Take a look at. And we've also, guys, worst case scenario, if there's truly nothing else, if we truly got nowhere to go, if nobody got me, Tommy C Love Phones got me. Okay?
Cool.
Pull the what's.
Well, let's see what Linus Tech Tips is saying.
Then so be it.
And for as long as Linus Media Group has hey everyone. Before we start our pre-WAN show topic today, I'd like to acknowledge a couple folks. I'd like to acknowledge our team who works so hard to deliver outstanding content to our community. And second, I'd like to acknowledge our community. No one's perfect. Yes, even us. And for as long as Linus Media Group has existed, you guys have been there to help us. You've held us accountable when we've gone astray, and you've also supported us when an attack against us is unfair, and it's time for someone else to be held accountable. Earlier this week, Gamers Nexus took us out of context again, and I can't keep ignoring this sort of thing.
Linus recently in a WAN show episode said the following regarding why they did not make a video when they found out about the way Honey works years ago, in response to how he believed he might be perceived if he had raised awareness to Honey's actions when his team discovered them.
Everyone's mad at me. It's that simple. I'm spreading the word for the smaller creators. That argument doesn't save me there, and it's not going to save me if I tell people to uninstall this extension that gets them a better deal so that smaller creators can get their affiliate revenue. Are you kidding me? There is just no way that I make that video and I don't end up hanging from the nearest tree.
Well, that's the video we're making right now. And if that were to result in backlash like he thinks it would, then so be it.
Even if we ignore how disingenuous it is to compare the climate today and what we know today to the climate years ago when we originally dropped our Honey sponsorship, our regular viewers will know that I provided additional context that dramatically changes the meaning of that quote. I mean, I don't expect everyone to agree with my viewpoint. It's very clear that not everybody does. But what I do expect is for it to be fairly represented. And this particular instance of misquoting is bad enough that many from Steve's own community have used words to describe it like disappointing, misleading, disingenuous, and straw man. To my knowledge, no retraction has been issued, even though I believe it is unlikely that the volume of comments about this went unnoticed by Steve and his team. You guys may remember another video Steve made about us back in August of 2023. But what you might have missed is that his treatment of us then was part of the same pattern of poor ethics and misrepresentation. To be clear, many points in his video were valid, but many others were not. And it was due to fundamental flaws.
I AFK for a second. What's the takeaway so far? How are we doing? What, is Gamers Nexus dead? Is it over for Gamers Nexus?
Flaws in his approach. Not careless or sloppy flaws, but objectively unethical, unjournalistic flaws. You shouldn't take my word for that. While I do often report on things,
I was on Gamers Nexus side for the last drama, but on Honey's side this time because screwing over annoying influencers is very funny. Yeah, I agree. I literally don't care that influencers got stolen from. In fact, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad Honey stole from them. They sold their own viewers. It's so annoying. This makes me seethe. This makes me seethe. These influencers sold their own viewers, all of you, me, everyone who might have downloaded Honey. I personally did not use Honey. However, I'm sure plenty of people did, and I considered it many times. They sold their viewers down the river, getting worse discounts, limited discounts, being tricked into thinking they were getting the best price possible when they weren't, because they didn't read anything about the product they were selling people. And now they want to come and work people up into a frenzy because they've lost their money, because their bag got affected, because they weren't getting their affiliate link clicks. Fuck you. Fuck you. I don't care.
and I do my best to act in the community's interest. I'm not a journalist. So why don't we instead look at ethicsandjournalism.org? They have some good articles on subjects like bad news bias and right to respond. Or maybe we could look to the BBC. You can pick your poison. The point is that while not every publication has exactly the same rules, there are plenty of helpful resources
I've
out
not
there
seen Sonic 3,
that
though.
outline the generally accepted standards and ethical responsibilities of a journalist. It's clear reading any of them that Steve's approach in recent years falls short in numerous ways. If you prefer a video summary, here's a convenient one from Dr. Ian Cutress of More Than Moore.
The story Gamers Nexus provides is one specifically about Linus Media Group, which changes the nature of such a topic. For example, one part of ethical investigative journalism is, unless it's uncovering an explicit crime or break of the law, reaching out to get a formal response in advance. Gamers Nexus did it with Principled Technologies, and that blew up. Gamers Nexus did it with Newegg, and that blew up. Somehow, those companies got special treatment, but Linus Media Group did not. This isn't me sticking up for Linus Media Group here, but I'd be interested to hear the reason for the disparity. Steve, in his update video, explicitly states he doesn't have to ask permission, but that's not the point here. Reaching out to Linus Media Group wouldn't stop you from posting your video, just like it didn't stop you him posting the Principled Technologies or Newegg videos. The precedent set for the last 20 years of tech journalism and 100 plus years of investigative journalism is that you at least reach out.
Ian's critique was carefully worded, and I don't blame him, given the climate at the time, but it was both extremely valid, and it was pointed.
Here's the thing as well, right? With the honey stuff, it feels like the influencers got scammed the worst. Sorry, just correct. The influencers that got scammed the worst, it would be proportional to how many of their viewers and how hard they sold them out, right? Because if your viewer base has more people using honey, you are getting less on your affiliate clicks or on your affiliate links. So it's like, it almost seems like it's directly proportional. Like the amount you fucked your viewers over is kind of directly related to the amount you've now been fucked over. So it's incredibly hard for me to ever care that any of these people lost money.
Enough that Steve felt compelled to respond to it. Ironically, with a rushed late-night ramble fest that was so poorly received that he pulled it down before I even got a chance to finish watching it back then. Thankfully, there are re-uploads of the video if you look for them, but in a nutshell, Steve spent about 20 minutes rationalizing that decades of journalistic best practices around right to reply simply don't apply to him. It felt a little ironic coming from someone who has accused me of gaslighting in the past.
Oh yeah, the mouth
Now, he
noises
did
are
issue
crazy.
a sort of retraction via a community post that you can still find on the channel, where he committed to republish that video at a future date, but he said that it would be within a broader channel update, so I'm not actually sure if that ever happened. And either way, what he didn't do is retract his flawed arguments, only the video where he made them. I say this because you can still find many of these arguments on his secondary GN mini site in the ethics statements section. Now, obviously, there are some valid policies in here, but many of the others pretty much boil down to Steve's personal moral code rather than the standard journalistic code, and I'll expand on that a bit later. But the short version is that no reputable journalist would validate his arbitrary justification for his own conflicts of interest or his convoluted no-contact policy that he used to justify his failure to reach out to us for comment as part of our right to respond. Now, some folks don't seem to understand.
Okay, he's a YouTuber, not a journalist, right? He doesn't have to go by his ethical standards. He's making videos, not articles, right? He's not being published by anyone. If he's done something wrong, a lot of this is to basically to show that you acted in a good way. If you're going to get sued or some shit, so if you've got a problem with something he said, fucking sue him. Like,
why this is so important.
It's as much for following ethical guidelines is as much for fairness to the other side as it is for the journalist's own protection, right? The journalist and the institution, the publication's own protection.
I have seen lots of speculation that Linus was just upset because Steve cleverly didn't give him a chance to weasel out of legitimate criticism. But that is not the case. We have proven over the years, again and again, we welcome constructive criticism, and we go out of our way to maintain open communication channels with our community. Like,
he's a journalist in spirit. It's bad faith to say otherwise. How is it bad faith to say otherwise? He's not a journalist, he's a fucking YouTuber. What do you mean, a journalist in spirit? What is a journalist in spirit? Anyone that says their opinion online is like a journalist in spirit, or reports an event in a post would be like a journalist in spirit. Like, what a retarded argument! What a retarded classification.
Through our sponsor, through our sponsor.
Chud Logic is a journalist in spirit.
Concern section of our forum, and through our incredible ECC squad, who lends us their expertise at multiple stages of our production pipeline. No. Right to respond matters because of the impact that it can have on your accuracy. By taking a single source and...
I like Gamers Nexus, overzealous but mostly correct last time, but his overzealousness is a problem with him jumping on this. Gamers Nexus claims to be a journalist, by the way. If he's claiming to be a journalist... Oh, okay, I can be convinced. I can be very easily convinced then. Hold him to the standards. If he's claiming the title, hold him to the standards.
For his own reasons, refusing to fact-check their misrepresentations, Steve made multiple critical errors in his coverage of the Billet Labs situation. Now look, I know this example's from 2 years ago, but it's one that I'm obviously familiar with, and it very clearly...
He makes the claim very strongly, repeatedly, saying that as a fan. Yeah, I hate when people do that. Okay. I think, yeah, absolutely. If you're standing saying, I'm a journalist, I'm an investigative journalist, and then you act like a fucking retard, you act like a total hack amateur, yeah, you should get raided cross calls for that.
Illustrates the way that Steve believed, and still believes, that he should be allowed to just avoid inconvenient data sources when he crafts his narratives. First up, Steve missed that Billet originally gifted the block to us. We were under no obligation to return it. He missed that they told us explicitly that it should work with a 4090 before we attempted it. He missed that Billet told us they were comfortable with us publishing the underperforming results, as long as we put it in context. And finally, Steve missed that the block only went into our charity auction because of an internal miscommunication that left the block marked as keeper. A mistake that I took action on within literal minutes of finding out.
Wait. Okay, wait. This actually looks really... Wait, okay. Gamers Nexus might be raped. I'm remembering back. Okay, so this whole piece, the original Gamers Nexus expose, was about a company that produced a prototype graphics card, I think. Right? Prototype graphics card that was given to Linus Tech Tips to review or to preview. And then after it was done, a GPU cooler. And after it was done, he auctioned it, right? He put it to be auctioned. And the company were mad about that. I don't remember ever being told as part of that Linus Tech Tips didn't just decide to go and sell it, but that there was an internal error that resulted in it being marked as the wrong thing and then was immediately rectified.
No.
I don't remember that.
It's our way to maintain open communication. Cleverly didn't give him a chance to weasel out of legitimate criticism. But that is not the case. We have proven over the years, again and again, we welcome constructive criticism, and we go out of our way to maintain open communication channels with our community, like through our sponsor concern section of our forum, and through our incredible ECC squad, who lends us their expertise at multiple stages of our production pipeline. No. Right to respond matters because of the impact that it can have on your accuracy. By taking a single source and, for his own reasons, refusing to fact-check their misrepresentations, Steve made multiple critical errors in his coverage.
I said, do you plan to reimburse us for this? And we heard nothing. We didn't get a response until your video. He's emailed us. We haven't emailed back. We thank the community for their support. We stand by everything.
Just the Billet Labs situation. Now look, I know this example's from 2 years ago, but it's one that I'm obviously familiar with, and it very clearly illustrates the way that Steve believed and still believes that he should be allowed to just avoid inconvenient data sources when he crafts his narratives. First up, Steve missed that Billet originally gifted the block to us. We were under no obligation to return it. He missed that they told us explicitly that it should work with a 4090 before we attempted it. He missed that Billet told us they were comfortable.
No. Okay. No, wait, no. Linus is raped. No, Linus is raped. Linus is raped. He said, he just said that Billet Labs told him that it would work with a 4090. Here, it says, what he actually said was, we're sending you the LGA 1700 plus 3090 Ti FE variant. It may also fit a 4090 FE, but we haven't got one to try it with. You're welcome to give it a go. But Linus is claiming that they said it would work with a 4090. It's not what they said.
First up, Steve missed that Billet originally gifted the block to us. We were under no obligation to return it. He missed that they told us explicitly that it should work with a 4090 before we attempted it.
That's not what they said. That's not what they said. Where is that? Sorry to hear you had to use the 4090, but we're still excited to see what you come up with. We appreciate your openness with your audience about it not fitting correctly. Yeah, it may. He said before it may also fit a 4090 FE. He never said it should. He didn't say should. He didn't say would. They even said we don't have one to test it with. Feel free to give it a go though. What? Dude, this guy's like weaseling.
Inconvenient data sources when he crafts his narratives. First up, Steve missed that Billet originally gifted the block to us. We were under no...
What does gifted mean? I would need to see the correspondence around the gifting.
No obligation to return it. He missed that they told us explicitly that it should work with a 4090 before we attempted it. He missed that Billet told us they were comfortable with us publishing the underperforming results as long as we put it in context.
Sorry to hear you had to use the 4090. But we're still very excited to see what you've come up with. We appreciate your openness with your audience by not fitting correctly. Hopefully your post-video testing shows it performing easily as well as any other water-cooled system, as that is what we've found.
And finally, Steve missed that the block only went into our charity auction because of an internal miscommunication that left the block marked as keeper, a mistake that I took action on within literal minutes of finding out. Now, I acknowledge that I didn't handle the situation perfectly, but I think it is undeniable that these omissions and errors are significant.
Okay, dude, you're like lying right now. I would need to see the correspondence around the gifting as well for that first claim. I don't know what the terms were. You haven't shown us the terms. You just showed that he got like some notification that he got it. I don't...
Keeper. As told us, they were comfortable with us publishing the underperforming results as long as we put it in context. And finally, Steve missed that the block only went into our charity auction because of an internal miscommunication that left the block marked as keeper, a mistake that I took action on within literal minutes of finding out.
Okay, when he says he took action on within minutes of finding out, so did the block get sold or not? Did the block end up getting sold? Because if it got sold, then you obviously didn't fix it in time, did you? Yo, thank you for the raid, Chud. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. We're just watching Linus Tech Tips has just gone live to try and debunk the old Gamers Nexus drama, if you remember any of that. It's about the time that he got a prototype graphics card cooling block and then sold it on an auction when he wasn't meant to, allegedly, and panned it in a review because he tested it on the wrong graphics card. Yeah, maybe we need to watch the Gamers Nexus video again. I'm going to watch it on 2x, okay? This one, right?
A few days ago, this clip from an LTT lab tour got a lot of attention online.
The difference between us...
Oh my god. Fucking review errors. CPU. Where's the Billet Labs stuff? The review of Billet Labs. Here we go.
One or the other. This one talks about the ethics and power of a review outlet and therefore its responsibility to do due diligence on a product. On June 24th, LTT published a video about a copper water block made by a small company called Billet Labs, founded just last year. LTT took one of the company's first prototypes to test, valued in the thousands of dollars for manufacturing, not counting opportunity value. In the video, the LTT team stuck this special 3090 Ti water block on an RTX 4090.
If this wasn't a 3090 Ti, then we don't have another 3090
Okay,
Ti.
it was good video, it's all drama. I'm not watching the thing, fuck
this
that.
thing was. I thought it was a 3090 Ti.
So we just casually had a 4090 sitting on the shelf, clearly labeled,
stating that it should work, despite it not being explicitly compatible. The company did not tell LMG that it would be 4090.
I thought it was a 3090 Ti.
So we just casually had a 4090
Ti that we can take apart.
How the hell did we not know what GPU this thing was?
I thought it was a 3090 Ti.
So we just casually had a 4090 sitting on the shelf, clearly labeled,
stating that it should work, despite it not being explicitly compatible.
4090
to viewers and to
wait, okay, no, I need this on lower speed. What's being said here?
That they then qualify ethics and powers on a product. On June 24th, LTT published a video about a copper water block made by a small company called Billet Labs, founded just last year. LTT took one of the company's first prototypes to test, valued in the thousands of dollars for manufacturing, not counting opportunity value. In the video, the LTT team stuck this special 3090 Ti water block on an RTX 4090.
If this wasn't a 3090 Ti, then we don't have another 3090 Ti that we can take apart.
How the hell did we not know what GPU this thing was?
I thought it was a 3090 Ti.
So we just casually had a 4090 sitting on the shelf, clearly labeled?
Stating that it should work, despite it not being explicitly compatible. The company did not tell LMG that it would be 4090 compatible. They told LMG that they could try to use a 4090, but Billet Labs itself had not tested one as it didn't have a 4090 at the time.
Wait, he reported that totally accurately. Wait, that's exactly what was in the correspondence that Linus showed.
Water blocks have very specific tolerances and clearances for components, so any misalignment would cause poor contact to the GPU core. LMG decided to try it and continued with
that was almost verbatim. We're sending you the LGA 1700 plus 3090 Ti FE variant. It may also fit a 4090 FE, but we haven't got one to try it with. You're welcome to give it a go. That's exactly what Gamers Nexus just said.
The video, despite misrepresenting the product massively by using it on an incompatible device that it literally would not fit properly. LTT's presentation goes down the path of being irresponsible, presenting the product as much more difficult to work with than it would be if used properly. The conclusion is
like, it's a cool product, but it's a bad product.
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks super cool.
Are you just saying it's
I don't
bad
think
just purely because of the price?
It's bad because it makes absolutely no sense and nobody should buy it. Most of the community is actually really amazing. But there's a vocal minority that looks at something like that and goes, lazy, out of touch, whatever else. No, I'm just really experienced at this.
As long as you got it.
Crap!
Did you put it in backward?
Get a shot of that. Look at that.
It founds this conclusion on the basis of improper installation. This serves no one. It needlessly harms a small company, and this kind of behavior can kill someone's life work in a heartbeat, and it'd be based on invalid testing and presentation. One of the company founders posted below the video and stated this, quote, "We love LTT, but it was difficult to watch their criticisms when pretty much every design issue that Linus raised was done for a reason which was all explained to Adam weeks ago. None of which, I guess, was fed back to Linus. We also sent a full instruction manual that seemingly wasn't used. I think there's definitely been a major communication breakdown along the video pipeline. We assumed we'd have a chance to answer any problems that were raised and explain them
Linus not reading instructions. What an idiot.
Publicly misrepresented. LMG faced some controversy from its community, at which point it replied on the following WAN show, doubling down despite a complete lack of accurate or even useful testing.
Nothing would have changed. Nothing that obeys the laws of physics would have changed the conclusion.
That statement is already a reckless and problematic doubling down, considering the elimination of any possibility to change the conclusion, including a 20-degree reduction, which should change the conclusion.
If the GPU had been 5 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion. If it had been 10 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion. If it had been 20 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion.
And we're not alone in saying they should have just done it properly. At least then you have grounds.
What? It would have still been shit, even if the GPU was 20 degrees cooler by having this product. What an absurd thing to say.
To stand on for criticisms.
I also get not wanting to retest, but I do think probably just testing it with the thing that they knew.
Wait, so Linus didn't give them a chance for responsible slamming the product for not fitting the wrong GPU standards. Standards for me, not for the Linus. Yeah, for real. I mean, to be fair, they did have ongoing correspondence, but yeah. Thank you, Kel, for the 99-cent banana super sticker.
It worked with in the first place probably would have made sense. Because like you're saying, the test result itself doesn't matter. But if it's just supposed to look cool, then it should be seated properly so it looks cool.
After about 5 minutes of rambling, the conclusion effectively was, lol, it still sucks though. Linus then, after publicly humiliating and trashing the work of two guys just getting their start in business while relying on zero effort to examine the thing correctly, complains about how he'd have to spend $100 to $500 more on an employee's time to test it properly.
But I'm not... I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time sitting and engineering a workaround to a product that no matter the result, nobody should buy.
Now, we don't have any connection to Billet Labs, and that comment was offensive even to us, so we can't imagine how heartbroken they must have been. Linus, in order to protect his company's bottom line, was willing to potentially inflict immeasurable harm to a startup rather than spend, by his own admission, a couple $100 in someone else's time out of the $100 million company's coffers. Making matters worse, in conversations with Billet Labs, Gamers Nexus learned that the company asked for the prototype back on June 28th. This would allow them to send it out to other media or use it for further development. Linus Media Group agreed at least twice to return the product. The first time they agreed to send it back was June 30th. At LTX, Linus Media Group put the one-of-a-kind water block up for auction at its Extra Life auction event, without the permission of Billet Labs. Billet did not learn of this until around August 11th, at which point it was told the block is gone. Again, this is despite LMG agreeing in late June to send it back, as LMG would have no further use for the block. Billet told us that it is now stalled, as it no longer has its best prototype available for continued development. It's also missing one of its GPUs. We voiced to Billet a concern of a potential competitor.
Wait, so how did you rectify it within minutes? This guy said he rectified this error within minutes. How?
He missed that Billet told us they were comfortable with us publishing the underperforming results, as long as we put it in context. And finally, Steve missed that the block only went into our charity auction because of an internal miscommunication that left the block marked as keeper, a mistake that I took action on within literal minutes of finding out.
Then why did you still sell it?
Now, I acknowledge that I didn't handle the situation perfectly, but I think it is undeniable that these omissions and errors are significant and that they've done significant, possibly irreparable damage to my reputation, to my company, and to my finances. To be clear, I'm only pointing out the finances because it's such an important factor in cases of libel and defamation. As I stated recently when I was discussing the Honey class action, I'm not a litigious person. I have no intention of filing any kind of suit because A, it's really hard to say if the line to defamation has been clearly crossed, and B, it would be a giant waste of time and money for everyone involved.
Right.
I only bring it up to underscore the gravity of the situation. The thing is, words mean what they mean. And while morality is a personal judgment, journalistic ethics is not. It's determined by collaboration and consensus between peers in the industry. Look, if Steve wants to do his own thing and call himself a YouTuber with strong moral fiber, that's his opinion, and he's entitled to it, and you're entitled to agree or disagree. But if he wants to use words like ethics or investigative journalism, then there are objective standards that he needs to uphold. And he doesn't get to decide when they're important and when they're not. Now, I believe that Steve is aware of these distinctions, which suggests that he is either ignoring his knowledge because he has failed to...
I don't understand. How can... So you sold the prototype. How did you rectify it? Where was it? How did you rectify this? Did you get the prototype back? You got the prototype back within minutes and gave it back to Billet Labs? But I don't understand. How is he claiming this?
Properly understand it, or because he is dishonest. I have no evidence to suggest that he is not smart enough to understand these principles. What I do have experience with personally is his dishonesty. The misquote of me in the Honey lawsuit video that forced me to address this is self-evident, but it's the rationalization for not reaching out about Billet that paints a more complete picture.
This is crazy.
He asserts that the information presented in his The Problem with Linus Media Group video was already public knowledge. Some of it was.
It gets funnier.
Some of it clearly wasn't. Billet Labs' representations of our private communication were not public knowledge.
It's in this video. Wait. Do I need to watch it? Do I need to see another video?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hardware News Recap of the Week.
Okay, this segment will stop. Okay.
Proceeding its necessary context. Linus hastily posted a statement about 3.5 hours after our video went live. The video raised concerns again about an incredibly large amount of testing inaccuracy issues, alongside what we believe to be unethical actions and just issues with responsibility as a large outlet in general. Linus' statement, it is an unhinged, unapologetic rant where he shirks responsibility and blames others. He tries to play weird semantic games like saying, quote, we didn't sell the product, we auctioned it, or misrepresent the timeline for when he contacted Billet Labs. He triples down on Billet Labs and says, quote, I still disagree that the Billet Labs video is an accuracy issue. It's more like, I just read the room wrong. That doesn't even make any sense. It's not the job of a reviewer to read the room and tell the room what it wants to hear. That is called...
Succinct is a perfect word to describe it.
He also said, quote, we could have retested it with perfect accuracy, but to do so properly, accounting for which cases it could be installed in, none, and which radiators it would be plumbed with, again, a mystery, would have been impossible. And also didn't affect the conclusion of the video, or so I thought. To be clear here, the random caps lock is not us. That's the original emphasis. I mean, we could have retested it with perfect accuracy, but to do so would have been impossible is nonsense. And it's very difficult to engage with nonsense. I don't know what that means. And it completely ignores the enormous video-breaking errors with cooler...
This is so retarded. I was willing to hear Linus Tech Tips out and be like, okay, there's some issues here. If it was the case that they told him specifically that this would work on this graphics card, then yeah, I mean, Gamers Nexus misrepresented it from my memory. But the more you look at it, when you just look into it, it's just fucking crazy. How is he doing this? How is he just bold-faced lie on a live stream? It's so fucking crazy. I don't understand.
Testing results and processes that sometimes wildly misrepresent the product stack. Other than the usual platitudes, if we wear imperfection on our sleeves in the interest of ensuring that we stay accountable to you without explaining how it happened or how they'll fix it. Look, we're going to talk about this today, but we're not going to drag this out and make a whole new standalone video about this response because they haven't added anything of substance. The response is immature, it's blaming others, and it's irresponsible to the community they built. But we are going to talk about some of the issues in the statement nonetheless, and then we're moving on. Let's start with Billet. This is where the story is getting a little bit twisted. We saw some comments about this confirming our concerns that people would lose track of the actual timeline. First of all, we're not going to argue the semantics about an item being sold against the will of a company versus being auctioned and being for charity, which we already said doesn't make that better. It makes it worse because now you're roping in an innocent third party into a very awkward situation that can potentially make them look bad by proxy. And secondly, this is actually what we said. The first time they agreed to send it back was June 30th. At LTX, Linus Media Group put the one-of-a-kind water block up for auction at its Extra Life auction event. More seriously, Linus' statement, which reads, quote, "We have already agreed to compensate Billet Labs for the cost of their prototype," uses specific language to imply that this was agreed upon prior to our video launching. Statement, which reads, quote, "We have
Yeah, okay, so they're just like, okay, we'll give you money after the video.
already agreed to compensate Billet Labs for the cost of their prototype," uses specific language to imply that this was agreed upon prior to our video launching. Following this forum post from Linus, we reached out to Billet Labs, with whom we'd already had contact, and we asked them the following. We said Linus' comment doesn't expressly say it, but it seems to imply that this agreement was made previously. Billet Labs said, no, absolutely not, no, no, no. The only mention of any money to do with the prototype was our response to them after they said they'd auctioned it. And we basically said, you know, that was an expensive prototype. They didn't want us to share the exact dollar amount. Billet continued to explain their email. They said, quote, "I said, do you plan to reimburse us for this?" And we heard nothing. We didn't get a response until your video, and Billet thanked us for it. We asked Billet when it had received that email from Linus, and they noted it arrived about 2 to 3 hours after we published our video, which would have been around the same time that Linus posted the comment on the forums. So he wrote that email and he posted and then said they've already come to an agreement. But at the time he posted it, Billet hadn't responded to the email. And just for the record, we have posted and then said they've already come to an agreement. But at the time he posted it,
he's emailed us. We haven't emailed back. Okay,
Billet
yeah,
hadn't
yeah,
responded to the email. And just for the record, we have the timeline of events, so I vetted them. And Linus Media Group did in fact agree to send the block back on June 30th, and they agreed again later, and then they followed up to tell Billet.
June 30th. Let me know if you'd like the block back either way, and we can ship it back with the 3090 Ti. July 6th. We'll send back the monoblock and the 3090 Ti. July 12th. The block and the 3090 Ti should be sent sometime next week. July 30th. LTX Extra Life auction featuring Billet block ends early August. So, okay, yeah. And then it's gone.
That they would have a tracking number soon, and then it was last seen at the auction at LTX. So today was the first time that Billet had direct contact with Linus. A comment from Linus lower in the forum reads this, quote, "Billet sent us a quote. I don't know or care how they arrived at the value. If they're good, I'm good." We asked them about this, and Billet emphasized to us that it had not sent Linus Media Group a quote. It noted that it had expressed a possible value of the block in frustration before our video, before this conversation began, after they learned that it had been auctioned previously, but that this wasn't any kind of quote or invoice. We asked Billet if it had anything further to share, and it said, he's emailed us. We haven't emailed back yet at the time of writing. We thank the community for the support. We stand by everything we've said publicly. Billet noted that they intend to email Linus back prior to sharing any further details, and they also spent a few minutes to express very sincere gratitude to the community. And as they don't have quite as much of a platform, I'm just conveying that to you. They were extremely grateful to the support that they received from you all, and I do think that they felt some closure on their side. Now we get into something important. As far as Linus' belief that we should have reached out to him first, and that not doing so somehow makes the 44 minutes of reporting any less valid, and considering the fact that he said there would have been valuable context, such as, quote, "the fact that while we haven't sent payment yet, we've already agreed to compensate Billet Labs for the cost of their prototype," which again Linus emailed Billet after the video. And this Billet situation is exactly why this sentence structure makes it appear as if Billet already agreed to some kind of resolution before the video. That's why it's our responsibility when doing proper reporting to ensure that the truth gets to viewers and that it's not misrepresented by a manufacturer. We don't have to reach out to corporations when we think there's a pattern of behavior or that there may be a significant chance that they try to cover things up or prepare a pre-written response that could twist the narrative, and in this case, manipulate the audience. Linus willfully ignoring our valid criticisms of data accuracy and some of the ethical concerns, while then trying to manipulate the audience into viewing him as the victim, not just LMG. This was very it's bizarre. This is why we don't reach out every time. I want to be very clear. We don't have to reach out to corporations prior to reporting on them, period. For big corporations, we don't reach out if the issue already harms consumers or if their view is irrelevant. The Walmart PC, the Alienware PC, any number of products we buy, but we don't need to reach out because the damage is being done actively. And we don't need Linus's input or permission to make that video. LMG's videos are already affecting millions of consumers, and they have objective errors that we covered objectively, and they involved serious ethical concerns, which we raised, and rather than addressing those, he's choosing to try and distract viewers by whining about us not allowing him to comment first. And they've already commented anyway. They did it in all of these various WAN shows.
Okay. I've heard the explanation from him. I've got the take. I just need to formulate in my head. I need to figure out how to say this. Right of reply is important in journalism because, one, you want to make sure your information is accurate for your readers or your listeners. And two, you want to make sure you're safe from claims of, you want to make yourself as safe as possible from claims of defamation. Now, if you're able to get the whole picture from one side, and you can be so, like, or it's all public, for instance, or you work on public information, that first thing is not necessarily a concern. The concern for your readers isn't necessarily a concern. For the defamation side, Gamers Nexus is pretty explicitly trying to damage Linus Tech Tips business. That is the goal. He's just laid out. That is the goal. That is the point. He does not want Linus Tech Tips to be able to dishonestly, obviously, paint the narrative and protect himself before Gamers Nexus can get his information out. So the defamation thing, it's like, if you know you've got all the accurate information and you're not trying to prevent damage to their business, you're actively trying to damage their business, then I don't know why you would reach out. I understand why Gamers Nexus wouldn't do that. That's malice. How is that malice? If you think people should not listen to Linus Tech Tips because he engages in unethical practices, how is it malice for you to bring that fact to light for the purpose of damaging the business, to stop people from listening to him? That's not, then any time you expose poor business practices, that's malice. Your goal is always going to be to stop consumers buying the product, to stop readers from reading. But it's not even about competition. It's about preventing harm to consumers, to readers, to companies. But that means damaging the business. You have to damage the business to do that. Yeah, that's not malice. I don't think that makes sense to call it malice. That's not malice in the way that we would ever use malice. You are obviously damaging the business. If you're exposing poor practices of a business, the purpose in doing that is to stop people using that business, to cause an effect in the bottom line, to either make the business change or to make another business rise up in its place. I don't think that makes sense in the way that we use malice. Yeah, isn't defamation to correctly say something bad about someone for the purpose of hurting them? Telling the truth with a malicious goal of hurting them is legal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if all the information is accurate, yeah, I don't know why they would want to give Linus the ability to defend himself like more easily. Why throw him the rope? If you know your information is accurate and you're not at risk of committing defamation, why throw him the rope? I understand that is the standard industry ethics for journalism because they're trying to avoid being sued. But if you don't have those restrictions of the industry, you're able to bend those rules, and you know beyond a shadow of a doubt your information is accurate, then I'm fine with you doing that, I think.
Shows we know what their comment is. We know what they think. And when there's an objective, factual issue, we don't need to reach out. The risk is to the consumer. And these aren't unreleased products. They are public videos with a lot of views. And I am exceptionally disappointed in this response. I am baffled that this was the path chosen. I don't know how to respond to the circular deflecting nonsense. As for the rest of the sort of meandering diatribe, it's just bizarre. I really am. I am genuinely just disappointed by this. Here's one such quote. I'm sorry I got the community's priorities mixed up on this one, and that we didn't show the billet in the best light. Our intention wasn't to hurt anyone. We wanted no one to buy it because it's an egregious waste of money, no matter what temps it runs at. Another quote. It was a mistake, a bad one, but a mistake, and they're taking care of it reality managed to have the same reach. This is a very bitter way to admit a mistake, but my answer to that question, because it had a question mark at the end of it, is not if you are insincere and indignant about it. No. He then talks about being real people and said, quote, today sucks. Look, guys, I'm not going to mince words to protect my reputation amongst sort of the devout LTT supporters, and that's gaslighting. That's what it is. Like we're the victims. Feel bad for us. That's what that is. So it's not acceptable behavior. It is embarrassing. And here's one more. Adam and I were talking about this today. He advocated for retesting it, regardless of how non-viable it was as a product at the time. And I think he expressed really well today why it mattered. It was like making a video about a supercar. It doesn't matter if no one watching will buy it. They just want to see a rip. I missed that. But it wasn't because I didn't care about the consumer. It was because I was so focused on how this product impacted a potential buyer. Bullshit. We know why they didn't do it.
I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time.
So I'll wrap this up by saying, look, we had data points in there that were completely ignored. They weren't mentioned at all in any of this. We talked about serious testing issues. We talked about methodological issues. We talked about lack of process. We talked about lack of QC. Talk about the fact that people can look at numbers that are 300% off in some cases, or in the cases of coolers, are just his chance to take responsibility.
Some of it was. Some of it clearly wasn't. Billet Labs' representations of our private communication were not public knowledge. And as we demonstrated in our response, they were not provided in good faith or with the appropriate context. Had he reached out for clarification, I feel it would have been clear, both to himself and to his audience, that the events that led to the block being auctioned were an honest accident caused by a miscommunication. I think it also would have been obvious that any perception that I behaved like a thief or a liar.
Okay, but he said that didn't change it. He said, yeah, okay, I don't care what the internal process was that led to this. He still sold it, and he was lying in the response still. He was lying about it in the response. He was acting like they'd agreed to a payment, but they hadn't. He hadn't received a reply.
Is not supported by the facts. It also would have been clear that some retractions and corrections were required in order to address the information that I provided. To my knowledge, no such action has been taken, and the original video is still up. Since we're at this, I would also be very curious to see receipts for the claims that we have a history of failure to resolve issues or unprofessionalism in prior communications.
Yeah, okay, I'd like to see evidence for that, sure. Okay, Gamers Nexus should show evidence for that. If that claim has not been evidenced, he should show evidence for that, sure.
Okay. GN further writes, we previously had non-public contact with this organization, LMG here, about similar matters that were not resolved satisfactorily or wherein we sometimes were the recipients of aggressive messaging pertaining to review topics. That is an extraordinary claim that I believe requires extraordinary evidence. I'm not going to deny I've had my fair share of cranky days in my life. It is possible, also, that he could be referring to another individual who worked here. But I dug through every DM and email that I could find with Steve. I probably don't have all of them. I have switched phones many times in my life. But I can't find any evidence to support this. I'm not perfect, so I want to make it upfront right here and say that if I acted unprofessionally or aggressively at any point, that was not my intention, and I'm truly sorry. But also, the whole thing just doesn't make any sense. Like, if you stop and think about it. If he reached out for comment, and I actually responded in the manner that he alleges I might, with dishonesty or aggression, publishing that response, right? That would be great supporting material for his expose. So even if the argument that he doesn't need to reach out because I could be rude in return held up ethically, which it doesn't, it also doesn't hold up logically. And the same goes for his claims that I could somehow turn it into an opportunity to mislead. Mislead who? Assuming his evidence and conclusions are solid, any deceptive action that I took in public would again give him further ammunition to make his case, and unless he's afraid that I could somehow bamboozle him in private, the most that I could do there is offer an explanation or context, both of which could only help him, if his intent was truly to provide an accurate account. Unfortunately, as many of you have come to realize after the latest Honey thing, I don't believe that that was ever the intent. Now look, I know that the first criticism of this segment is going to be, there goes Linus again, all emotional defensive. But what would you do? What would you have me do? I apologized for the errors that we've made, and I kept my mouth shut about this stuff for ages, in the interest of moving past this. It's not working. And like, this isn't some random comment on Reddit, guys. This is an influencer with massive reach, misrepresenting me on an ongoing basis. How long should I stay silent to atone for my real sins? And how many times should I be unfairly attacked before I'm allowed to get defensive? Thing is, if I allow myself to be misrepresented, that opens the door for someone else to be misrepresented. At some point, I'm sure you guys can agree, it becomes necessary to stand up for yourself. I am not saying I'm perfect. Spoiler, I'm super not. But there are numerous conflicts of interest around Gamers Nexus covering us in any way, which he well knows because he lists them on his website. And a token gesture like forgoing the AdSense revenue on one video falls a little flat when you compare what can be gained through subscriber growth, AdSense revenue on future videos, not to mention from elevating one's own reputation and brand at the cost of a competitor. Over the last year and a half, I've made sometimes quite difficult efforts to put aside my personal feelings and move on.
Okay, well, no YouTuber can ever expose another YouTuber again, if that's the standard, retard. What a stupid fucking thing to say. Like...
In spite of my well-founded concerns about Steve's impartiality, not to mention the painful personal history, some of which I just laid out, we, including me personally, have made an active effort to just go back to normal, start shouting out Gamers Nexus. We've done it multiple times for their stories or reporting, and so we should. When people do good work, we as an industry should praise it, but that should be a two-way street. The honest truth is I don't actually know what Steve's issue with me is today. My last message to him was on the day he published the expose, and I never got a response. I will read it here so we can all be on the same page. A journalist might have reached out for comment to get valuable context first, but we both know that, once again, this wasn't about making the most accurate video. Your glass house is showing. Here I'm referring, of course, to the analogy of throwing stones in a glass house. Scaling beyond a few dudes is a big challenge, and I really hope that one day you get there. One, I still think that even if your judgment is clouded right now by the giant conflict of interest you have around reporting on us, your heart's in the right place, and that it would be good for the industry. Two, I think it'll be good for your content and for your audience for you to have a broader perspective. I'll be moving forward as normal and won't be participating in any kind of nonsense. I don't understand. What was he wrong about? Can you just tell me, please? Explain to me. What was Gamers Nexus wrong about? I don't understand. Public sniping. It'd be good for views or whatever, but I'm pretty focused on growing the company and our test capabilities and our team. You're still welcome at future LTX events, and we'd be happy to resume working together in good faith if you ever decide again that working together as press is good for the industry. Until then,
can we all agree
Linus.
GN should be considered a journalist now that Linus's lies are exposed? He does deep dive investigations/exposés on companies, even if he doesn't work for a newspaper or whatever lol.
No, I fucking hate YouTubers using the term journalist. Like, self-proclaimed journalist. He's a self-proclaimed journalist. I just fucking hate, because it just waters down the term. It waters down the term like crazy. Like, where do you stop that? Chud Logic did deep dives into Nuxtaku. Is Chud Logic an investigative journalist? Is that what we're, is that the way we're going? I don't like that. I don't like that labeling at all. So I do generally like to, I would prefer to reserve it for people who work for a publication called journalists. Independent journalist. He's an independent journalist, okay? That's what I'm fine with that. Independent journalist. Be very specific, okay? Because that can mean fucking anything. That can mean fucking, literally everyone's an independent journalist, okay? Independent journalist is like, I show up and bother people at local events to get interviews, and I write a newsletter and hand it out at my college. Like that can be an independent journalist. That's fine, you know?
What I said holds true today, including the part at the end. I want to move forward, but that's going to take some work from both parties, not just me. So I'm going to shift gears, and the next part will be directed to Steve, who was sent an advance copy of my letter today, which he has responded to, kind of, along with a request for comment on his apparent personal challenges around covering us objectively. Steve, on WAN Show today, I'll be doing a segment outlining some of the ethical and journalistic issues with your content that I have observed personally and that I have seen raised by the community. I will be especially focused on how they have impacted your coverage of me and my company, because I'm most familiar with the relevant facts, but these issues appear to run deeper, and I believe they could be impacting your ability to be objective overall, something I know the community values greatly. There will be a particular focus on your stance around right of reply, since it affects accuracy so much, and there will also be some discussion around misquoting, as in the recent Honey video, as well as your ability to address, or your inability to address your clear conflicts of interest when it
GN
comes
is a
to
moral
covering an entity
flag,
that...
but the only tech tuber in that space who isn't scared of drama or bridge burning. GN is autistically obsessed with determining the facts of the matter. Their work predates YouTube.
I've had a good impression of Gamers Nexus. Okay, I'm willing to hear Linus out. Okay, he may have points. We will see. I'm willing to hear him out. Okay, Pierce, I don't know why you would just assume that because someone's on break, it's because of Destiny drama. Hey.
That you have chosen to view as a direct competitor, rather than as a collaborator or peer, as you did in the past. If you have some comments and evidence on what breakdowns caused your inaccurate coverage of us in the past, why you seem to find it so challenging to cover us objectively, and what steps you plan to make to rectify these issues in the future, I would be happy to include your thoughts in this segment. The segment will also include the following letter that is addressed to you. Steve, we do our best around here to do what we believe is right and to stand up for the consumer. That leads to us doing journalistic things
guys,
sometimes,
we are going
and
back
I understand
to
the
Sonic.
basic journalistic principles, but I'm not a journalist and I've never claimed to be. The reason I'm sending...
Oh, really, Pierce? If you can get that clip, I would love that clip. So, did this actually happen? Someone in his chat mentioned Loner Box and Destiny making a good team, and he laughed and said, no. But if that clip happened, I need that. I need that.
Sending this to you then is not because
Loner come home. Loner Box come home. Loner Box come home.
I'm some journalist reaching out for comment, but out of respect, and because I was once a collaborator and supporter, and I hope to be again someday. For that to happen, though, I do have some requests. Everyone is human, and we all make mistakes, but I believe that for you to become the journalist you aspire to be, there are some errors in both your approach and in your coverage.
Odd link on the Destiny subreddit. Oh my god, you're distracting me into Destiny drama. We'll look at this quickly, but I'm getting back to Linus Tech Tips so I can sit here and play Pokemon. Well done. Okay, let's go back to LTT.
That are large enough to merit correction. Obviously, not everything needs to be pulled. Your methods aside, it's clear you were right about a lot of things in August of 23. But it's also clear that between the conjecture, editorialization, and what I hope are simply errors rather than lies, a number of retractions are in order, both on that piece and in your other coverage. This isn't just for me, but also for your community who looks to you to do the right thing. As for the personal side of things, I can't ask you to like me. You clearly disagree on a personal, moral basis with some things I do. Which of them are real and which of them are performative, I'm actually not sure anymore. But it doesn't matter. That's your personal compass, and you got to follow it. What does matter is treating others in the industry with respect and being prepared
Man, she commented almost to one-shot me, dude. That was just... Fuck, man.
to be held accountable the same way you hold others accountable. Traditional journalism, while a competitive battlefield, has no absolute authority and is quite often a brotherhood with shared goals that hold each other accountable to mutually agreed upon standards. It's not a brutal free-for-all. So, as part of being a contributing member of the tech brotherhood, I expect you to be open to critique in the same way that you expect others to be open to critique. I also expect that if you cover us publicly in the future, you do so with honesty, impartiality, and proper disclosure of your numerous conflicts of interest. With that said, regardless of your motives in 23, your actions did serve as a wake-up call for us to supercharge the changes that we were slow rolling, and for that I'm thankful. Now it's time for your wake-up call.
Wow, this guy sucks.
Should you choose to accept it. If you can't put your biases aside, simply recusing yourself is an option, but it might require some further retractions, since you've claimed in the past that covering us is so very important because of our business's relevance to the tech industry. Well, if that's no longer the case, then any snipes that relied on that for justification probably need to go too. I understand you may not want to rebuild this bridge, but I still want you to know that while Gamers Nexus LLC is every bit as much of a for-profit business as Linus Media Group Incorporated, I, Linus Sebastian the individual, still see you, Stephen Burke the individual, as a colleague and potential future collaborator. Because the reality of it is, personal feelings aside, we both fight for the same team, the consumers and the community. A community that is stronger if we just cut the tribalism and work together. I've always said that a rising tide lifts all ships and that we all benefit from more interest in our hobby and more contributors to our community. I have always encouraged our viewers to follow multiple outlets and get multiple perspectives, including yours. You used to tell me that you agreed with those things. I hope you can again, because this is going to be especially important as we navigate the weirdness around benchmarking machine learning assisted cards like the upcoming 50 series. So in summary, I welcome valid, constructive, good faith.
Wait, he hasn't said. Is he saying anything else about this?
Feedback, but when I told you a year ago
he's not said anything that Gamers Nexus was actually wrong about. Well, he tried to, but it was all either bullshit or unproven. But he's not. Like, we've been here for ages now, and he's not said anything else. He's just talking in circles.
Interest in public sniping matches, that was the truth. Our community in tech used to stand out as one that embraced collaboration and rejected beef. I would like that again.
Okay.
I chose to make my statement as a segment on WAN Show and a clip on our Clips channels rather than a dedicated video in hopes of finding a balance between sharing my side finally and
stop calling me out.
Igniting drama for views.
Yeah, so stop calling me out. That's drama, dude.
See you at Computex, Linus. Now, I'd like to come back to addressing you all. For once in the history of online communities, guys, I beg of you, this
adamant nature on a Pikachu, is that fucking dog shit? That's like fucking dog shit, right? That's lower specialty ed, dude. Fuck! Fuck! Okay. Yeah, but I think what I want to do is I want to do maybe I want to do what's the move called again? I want to do Electro Ball. Use Pikachu with like some stupid fast Pokemon because it's based on speed, isn't it? I think that could be awesome. We could rape.
This is not ooh shots fired. Do not get into a mudslinging match over this. Continue the good work you do, holding creators accountable. But this is not, and it should never be, LTT versus GN, us versus them.
Also, I'm thinking about doing a ban list for the tournament, okay? I don't know, if someone said, like, no Shedinja fusions, I think that might be a shout. It's just like, so there's some stuff where it's just crazy, you know?
Some folks are going to insist on interpreting it that way. But I believe that the majority, the rational viewers, should be able to see the truth of what I'm saying, even if they don't always agree with the source, and see the importance of moving on.
Yeah, I said earlier, I think we're going to do a tournament in like a few weeks, once people have a chance. Only for people who are actively posting in Discord, though, because we have to be able to kind of verify that you didn't cheat.
As for the ones that can't do that, look, if their viewpoint is closed, we gain nothing by arguing with them except wasting our energy. Energy we need to power our TX 5090s. So let's rise above it. So with that in mind then, funny memes, inbounds. I like humor as much as anyone. But if Steve wants to move on, then I would like to respectfully request an end to the GN bashing posts, for that matter any other publication, in our various community gathering places. YouTube comments, Discord, Reddit, and the LTT forum, and any that I haven't thought of. I'd like us to be the change we want to see in the world. Thank you, you guys. One last note. I know that we did announce that we were going to launch our mod mat this week. A project, by the way, that we kicked off long before the August controversy, and that was created in collaboration with ModRite, the owner of the mod mat patent, who's been making them since before anyone in the creator space got the idea. But even though our mod mat has nothing to do with Steve, I felt it would be tacky for us to have a long discussion about an important topic like this, then immediately pitch to a sales pitch, or pivot to a sales pitch for a product that competes with one of his. So we're pushing the launch to next week.
Yeah, I've seen your Pokemon. It's Aegislash. Well, not Aegislash. I can't remember the fucking... Is it Aegislash? I don't. It's the not evolved version, right? I can't remember the names. Aurelia. Very suspicious. Very strange.
This week. Now, with that unpleasant business out of the way, welcome to the WAN show. We've got a great show for you guys this week. I went on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, so I'm going to be talking about that. Dude, I had the time of my life.
I honestly know very little about it, and I'm just as interested as probably they are to hear about it.
I am stoked. We're also going to be talking about a perception that I've seen in the community, that review embargoes are bad.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What else we got this week?
Nintendo officially announced the Switch 2, and goodbye TikTok.
What do you mean Electro Ball isn't worth it? If you've got crazy speed, is it just not that good? Surely it's really good if you've got like crazy speed.